that the idea that VO2 max is the single greatest predictor of lifespan of any measurable number we have is quite remarkable.
When longevity experts look at all the things they can measure to guess how long you might live or how to increase how long you live, the VO2 max score comes out on top. Studies show that as your VO2 max score goes up, your chances of dying from all causes go down, no matter your age, and even if you have existing health problems. In this video, I'll break down VO2 max in the simplest way possible, from what it is and how to measure it, to boosting your score, no matter your age or fitness level. So what is VO2 max? VO2 max is a measurement of the maximum amount of oxygen your body can take in and use during exercise. It's a score that reveals your cardiovascular fitness. The higher your VO2 max, the more oxygen you can take in and use. Basically, it means you can exercise longer and faster before you're tired. Let's look at it another way. Imagine your body is a car and your VO2 max is the engine and the oxygen you breathe in is the fuel. If you have a bigger engine, your VO2 max, you can take in and use more fuel, oxygen, to go faster and for longer performance. So a bigger engine equals more fuel to go faster and longer. Likewise, a bigger VO2 max equals more oxygen and better use of it to go faster and for longer. So why is VO2 max linked to longevity, how long you live, and a reduction of death from all causes? Many biomarkers can be gained, like vitamin levels, blood glucose, blood pressure, etc. But the VO2 max is one of the few that you have to put into work, just like strength. It's proof of the work you put in on being fit, and you can't fake it. If we list all the health numbers by how well they can guess how long you'll live or the chance of you dying this year, VO2 max would be the highest on that list.
All right, class, it's time for a pop quiz.
Can you tell me, what do all of our organs need? Could shut down after just 3 minutes, and after 6 minutes, we could die or have permanent brain damage? If you guess oxygen, you're right. I think it's cool that the thing we need the most to stay alive, oxygen, is linked to our VO2 max test, in that how well we can take in oxygen and use it can reduce the chances of dying from all causes and extend the quality of our health and how long we live. So how do we know this is true? And why should you care? There was a 23-year-long study done to find the link between someone's cardiovascular fitness and how long they would live. It had over 122,000 people in their 50s, about 60% male. Participants did a treadmill test to see how fit they were, and then were grouped into 5 categories based on their performance on the test, age, and gender. The categories were as follows: low fitness, below average, above average, high fitness, and elite. They assessed the data over a 23-year time span, and what they found was incredible. Going from low fitness to below average fitness resulted in a 50% reduction of death by all causes. That was by far the biggest jump, but each increase was huge as well. Remember, these people were in their 50s, and many of them had existing diseases as well. They found that the higher the VO2 max got, the better the outcomes of life and reduction in death by all causes. And here's what was even cooler. Someone with a disease but a higher VO2 max had a higher chance to live a longer and healthier life compared to someone with a low VO2 max and no diseases. So this is why everybody, including you, at any age and any fitness level, should aim to improve their VO2 max.
If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy.
I have some good news. I have some bad news.
There's good news and bad news.
Let's start with the bad news. Your VO2 max drops about 1% per year, 10% per decade, after 40 to 45 years old, even if you're in great shape and exercise regularly. If you start with a low VO2 max and anything bad happens, like an injury or an illness, it's very hard to recover from, especially the older you are. But here's the good news. Cardiovascular fitness training helps slow this down and in many cases reverse it. It's never too late to improve your VO2 max, regardless of your age or fitness level. And everybody can get into the top 25% of VO2 max for their age and sex. Improving your VO2 max gives you a buffer. It protects you if you get injured or ill, and it even protects you from getting sick in the first place. I want you to take a moment and imagine not being able to get dressed, brush your teeth, take a shower, or be able to use the washroom without help. This is what we call the line of functional independence, the line where you can no longer do the basic tasks of life on your own. This is how VO2 max and your functional independence work together. VO2 max is measured in milliliters of oxygen used per kilogram per minute. Okay, the low end of the functional line of independence for men is around 18 milliliters per kilogram, and for women it's about 15 or 16. Once you drop below that, the basic tasks of life require more use of oxygen than you can perform, and now you have to depend on others. So for example, getting dressed requires 12, getting up from the toilet, 12 or 13, walking, 14 or 15. If your VO2 max drops below the line of functional independence or near it, it often drops with your self-esteem and self-image. You start to isolate, you can't fuel your brain effectively, so now you start declining mentally, you're more stressed. It's a downward spiral. I witnessed this with my dad, and it's very sad to watch. I wish I had this information while he was here. Maybe he'd still be alive, or he could have had better quality years. This is why it's so important to always aim to improve your VO2 max, and I hope this resonates with you. Now, I don't care if you're 18 or 80 years old. This applies to everyone. If you're younger, get a head start. It'll offer that buffer. And if you're older, you can still make huge improvements. So how do you find out what your VO2 max is? It's very important to know what your VO2 max is so you can improve it. So finding out what it is and measuring it every 3 to 6 months is a good idea so you can track your progress. There are two primary ways to find out what your VO2 max score is. Number one, direct testing. Number two, indirect testing. Direct testing is done at a facility with specialized equipment. The cost depends on your location and place you choose, but to give you an idea, in my area in Toronto, Canada, it ranges between 150 to 200 Canadian dollars. And how it works is you'll do the test on a bike or a treadmill wearing a mask that measures your oxygen use, and they make it harder until you reach your limit, and that's your VO2 max. The indirect testing is something you can do on your own to get an estimate of what the VO2 max is. Now, it's not as accurate, but it can be very close. And then you can redo these tests every few months to compare. And if you're improving, you know that your VO2 max is also going up. Some tests you can do include the 6-minute walk for seniors. This is for the older population if you're not as active. The Rockport walking test, the Cooper 12-minute run, and the Cooper 1.5 mile run. If you're disabled, please reach out to me and I'll help you with a test tailored to your circumstances. I'll be putting together a video on each test in more detail, so subscribe if you're interested. But in the meantime, I provided a link to a really good video in the description that goes through each test in detail. So how do you improve your VO2 max? Well, the main idea is if you challenge your body, it will adapt, period. Doesn't matter the age or fitness level. And with that said, I want to break down 3 studies that show the best way to increase VO2 max. The links to all the studies I've referenced in this video will be in the description below if you want to dive in deeper. Number one, a huge review study looked at 53 different studies to see which HIIT workouts improve VO2 max the most. HIIT stands for high intensity interval training. It's just a type of exercise where you do short bursts of really hard exercise followed by a brief rest period, and then you go again. And what they compared was how long each set was, 30 seconds or less versus 2 minutes or more, the total session time, 5 minutes or less versus 15 minutes or more, and how long the program lasted. So 4 weeks or less, or 4 to 12 weeks. And what they found is that all the methods increased VO2 max, but there was a bigger increase in the participants that did longer intervals, total session time, and a longer program. And what that tells us is that short is great, but more is better. The second study was a 2-year study where they had 61 inactive people in their mid-50s divided into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Group A started strength training 2 times per week, very light cardio, and after a few weeks, they added what's called the Norwegian 4x4. Okay, how the Norwegian 4x4 works is you find the hardest pace you can keep for 4 minutes, then rest for 3 minutes, and you repeat this 4 times. Eventually, they were doing this twice per week for the remainder of the study. Group B just did yoga and stretching 3 times per week. They were told to stay away from hot yoga or any super intense exercises. The goal was to stay active, but not increase their heart rate by much. Group A went from a VO2 max score of 29 to 34, which was an 18% increase, and they reduced stiffness in their heart. Group B didn't see any changes to their VO2 max or their heart stiffness. In the third study, they took over 25,000 people who don't exercise and followed them for an average of about 7 years. They wanted to study what happens to people who do short bursts of exercise throughout the day. We can call them exercise snacks. These short bursts could be like running up the stairs, running for a bus, or anything to jack your heart rate. What they found with these exercise snacks were associated with a lower risk of dying from all causes. Just 3 to 4 minutes of total exercise snack time per day showed a 38 to 40% decrease in death by all causes, including cancer, and a 48 to 49% reduction in cardiovascular disease-related death. Now, why is this? It's because they were improving their VO2 max, which reduces your chances of dying by all causes, we already know this, and increases the quality of your life and health. So to me, this was the most impressive study because anyone can do this. Everybody has 3 to 4 minutes per day. Let's get into the protocols. But before we do that, if you aren't used to doing high intensity cardio exercise or you've been inactive for a while, please consult with your doctor. Make sure you're clear to go. Obviously, use common sense. Now, I want to briefly touch on 5 ideas that your program will revolve around. We already kind of went over some of these, so bear with me and skip forward if you like. Number 1 is 80-20 split. This is the foundation of our approach. Decide how much time you can exercise or you want to exercise in the week. 80% of that will be in zone 2 and 20% on VO2 max training. Number 2, zone 2 training. What is it? This is moderate intensity cardio. You should be able to hold a conversation while breathing heavier than normal. Think of it like you can talk, but you can't sing. So fast walking is a great example. Number 3, high intensity interval training. These are short, intense activities followed by rest. Typically sets of 10 seconds to 3 minutes where you go as hard as you can for that time and then slow down or completely rest until you get your breath back. And then you repeat it. These typically last between 5 and 15 minutes. Number 4, Norwegian 4x4 consists of 4 minutes of high intensity effort followed by 3 minutes rest, repeated 4 times. And number 5, exercise snacks. Again, these are short, vigorous exercises spread throughout the day like sprinting upstairs, jumping jacks. You then add these snacks to get the total for the day. Now, I've created a guideline for each phase of your journey: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Beginner. This is for people who aren't active or do very little activity. The main goal here is building the habit of cardio exercise. Just get active. Your heart rate, the duration, and intensity don't matter at this point. Just get your heart rate up as many times as possible throughout the week. Number 1, engage in 1 to 4 minutes of exercise snacks daily. A couple of examples are: take the stairs when you can, do jumping jacks as hard as you can while maintaining it for 30 seconds. Do these things during washroom breaks, etc. You can get creative and find exercise snacks that you enjoy. These last anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds to a minute or 2. You add those up and that's your total exercise snack time for the day. Number 2, engage in as many zone 2 cardio sessions per week as you can and increase it over time. You can do something like fast walking a few times a day, or you can even start with 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, etc., and just start increasing it. But the most important thing here is consistency and to build the habit so that it becomes part of your lifestyle. Intermediate. This is for people who exercise semi-regularly to regularly or have been on the beginner phase for at least 3 or more weeks consistently. Number 1, 4 minutes of total time exercise snacks daily. Number 2, 1 to 3 hours of zone 2 training weekly, 1 to 3 HIIT sessions per week. And number 4, Norwegian 4x4 at least 1 time per week. Advanced. Okay, this is for my dedicated exerciser. You've been getting after it regularly. This was a lifestyle at this point. Number 1, 4 minutes of exercise snacks daily. This is a bonus. Number 2, 3 to 5 hours or more of zone 2 cardio per week. Number 3, 3 to 5 HIIT sessions per week. And number 4, the Norwegian 4x4, 2 or more times per week.
So the question remains, what should my VO2 max score be? And what we have here is an excellent tool
to help you identify where you're at and help you improve. So the American College of Sports Medicine has a PDF document, which I've linked in the description below as well. And what they've done is they narrowed it by gender. So you have men, women, and by decade for age. So 20 to 29, all the way through to 70 to 79. And the same thing for women. So what you want to do is find where you are at and then compare yourself. As you see here on the left, they've gone from very poor to superior. So let's do an example. Let's say you're a 35-year-old male and you fall, your VO2 max is somewhere like 44. So what you're going to do is find your chart that corresponds to you, so men, and let's say you're 35, so you're in this age bracket. We said you fall at 45. And so the second column here is VO2 max, and you just scroll down 45. So you fall somewhere in line in between fair and good, which isn't bad. And the idea here is to try to improve. You want to keep going up. So I'd want to be somewhere in that good to superior. And the same thing applies for women. Now, the next step is to really aim to be in the decade prior to yours, right? So you want to be in the age bracket that's 10 years younger. So if you're 35, you're looking to be in that 20 to 29 range, and you're trying to land up somewhere in that good to superior. So that's really the end goal. And this is a great chart. Another cool thing about it is it's not just limited to your VO2 max, which is, again, in the second column. We also have several tests, some of which we discussed, that you can make comparisons to. So if you do the 1.5 mile run for time, you kind of see where you fall, where you land for your specific bracket and gender. And so check it out. It's in the description. And I think it's an invaluable tool. You should always aim to be improving. The main idea here, guys, is to improve over time and ultimately to make this a lifestyle. It needs to be a habit. I sincerely hope I reached you. I hope you found this helpful and that you'll act on it. I've seen firsthand how important it is. And if you did find this useful, please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps me and it helps the channel grow. Thank you for watching.